Good morning. I am Valerie Wilson, the director of the Caribbean MedLabs Foundation, and we are an entity that works within the Caribbean to work with governments and with labs and other bodies within the Caribbean to improve the quality of laboratory services that are delivered to the populations in the Caribbean. So we came to Aruba, my colleague and I, Wendy Kitson-Piggott, came to Aruba at the invitation of the Department of Public Health, who approached us because we have been working on the issue of national laboratory policy in countries within the Caribbean region. In fact, with our help, 17 countries in the Caribbean have developed national laboratory policies. So our initial visit here within Aruba is really to meet with stakeholders and begin the process of getting information about how labs are structured, how they operate, what the Department of Public Health would like to have in terms of information from labs, because the whole product of labs, we all think about tests, but the product of labs is really information. And so how we actually get the information and how the Public Health Department would like to have information from labs to protect the populations of Aruba is really at the fundamental premise of this particular visit. So we're going to be meeting with the stakeholders to begin the process of moving forward towards ensuring that Aruba has a standardized policy for the way in which their laboratory sector is organized. At the end of the 3 days, we first of all hope to have a good view of the laboratories, to meet with the persons who actually are the managers of the laboratories and also within the Public Health Department, to define more clearly exactly what would be the objective of laboratory information for the Public Health Department, what are some of the quality issues that may need to be addressed within the environment, and at the end of it, we really hope to have a stakeholder group, a stakeholder steering committee that would actually be the driver and the overseer of this whole project, to engage the labs and other stakeholders, the Public Health Department, in moving the process forward, so that at the end of it, it is a collective decision making and not the Public Health Department or the labs making decisions on their own, but moving forward in a collaborative way to improve the quality of the lab service. So at the end of this, we hope to set up that committee. We hope to have some basic information and to begin the process of moving ahead with the assessments that will lead us into the policy documentation. So in this phase of the project, the focus is going to be on the assessments. The focus in this particular phase is really on assessing the environment, assessing what the Public Health Department needs, assessing where the labs are at. And at the end of this process, the Minister will have a good picture of where things are at this point in time. What's the current situation? Then beyond that, we hope to move to the process of engaging the stakeholders. We have a national policy framework that has been established for the Caribbean, approved by ministers of health, approved by chief medical officers, collectively for the Caribbean. And that's the framework we have used for policy consultations in each of those 17 countries I mentioned. So we hope we'll be able to move to that stage as the next step after this phase of the project is over. So, laboratories are one of the first places that really give a flag in terms of what we're seeing. We have the coronavirus as a great example right now. First clinicians begin to see people are getting ill, and they're getting more ill with this particular virus. But then it takes a lab result to say, well, what are we looking at here? This is something new, this is something different. So lab results are really at the basis of identifying what the source of an epidemic or an outbreak or a situation of public health interest may be arising. In a place like Aruba that is so tourism dependent, this is a very, very important role and function. That laboratories are at the basis of what's happening here. We see diarrheal disease, we see influenza, what's actually happening, what virus are we seeing or what bacteria are we seeing. So the labs have a very, very important role to play in terms of identifying the pathogens that we're looking at, and therefore what the prevention measures may need to be. And that is really the fundamental role that labs play. So accuracy and reliability, turning around the result in a reasonable period of time, having the quality that you can depend on, that we know when the lab identifies this is the pathogen, and we know that it really is. That's the fundamental reason why this is so important. And the national policy actually gives the Ministry of Health the reassurance that in fact labs are actually operating at a quality standard and at a level that will provide the information that they need. So for the person who's concerned about their own health, their health is really also based on the lab results. A doctor actually utilizes lab results for deciding whether a patient needs to be treated or not treated, or whether treatment is effective or it's not. It's important for diagnosing, it's important for monitoring, it's important for deciding should the treatment end, or should it be continued with a different, or should it be changed. So fundamentally, for every person who's concerned about their health, which we all are, it is really important to be concerned about the quality of a lab result, because the quality of a lab result that you get really determines the quality of the treatment that your doctor can give you. So for an individual, it's really a very fundamental issue. And so it's important for individuals to understand that having a policy, having a legislative agenda that requires the policy to be implemented is really important for their own personal health, for every single individual. And that's why we are so passionate about what we do, because it's all about people. People and communities, in the end, are affected very directly by lab results, even though labs are not something that the general public really thinks about or sees in a real way. And for those persons who, and we've been talking a lot about the infectious diseases, but we know that for the general public and in our Caribbean, the reality is that NCDs, non-communicable diseases, are really the major challenge that we have. Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancers. And if you think about it, you recognize that all of these are diagnosed within labs. So at the end of it, the treatment, again, to get back to the issue, the treatment that you get is based on the lab result. How do you decide if you have diabetes? You have to do a test, a lab test. How do you decide if you have cancer? Again, you have to do a lab test. So the quality of lab tests is really completely, central to the kind of treatment you get. In fact, it is estimated internationally that 70 to 80% of medical decisions are influenced by lab results. This means that lab results are really central to the treatment that you get for anything. And that is really the fundamental message for every individual. Your health is about how the lab can actually provide the information to your physician to ensure that you get the treatment that you require.
Maneho do Ministério de Saúde dirigido a melhoração de serviço, a melhoração de cuidado médico e de processo aqui, nós a começar projeto for de ano passado cada, nós também está de processo de negociar para chegar a acordo com o Caribbean Med Foundation. Kiko acordo aqui está encerrar, acordo aqui está encerrar com a fundação aqui também Aruba, também faz assessment de todo laboratório que brinda serviço na comunidade. Depois de assessment aqui, a seguinte fase está para garantizar que todo teste que está o assim na Aruba está 100% reliable, na deve ser por meio de certificação e acreditação para percurar para todo laboratório na Aruba que está assim teste tem acreditação e tem certificação cumprindo com o estándar e norma internacional e norma que o Departamento de Saúde Pública Tambe está estipulando que quer dizer que é projeto importante para a comunidade de Aruba no momento que uma pessoa está sentindo seu corpo malo, que também faz teste na laboratório que porta 100% seguro com o resultado com a raia de teste que agora se está reliable e me está contente que nós chega no momento aqui junto com a Caribbean Med Foundation que também understeunos e também guia nós tem ter processo aqui para na final de dia percurar para todo laboratório na Aruba está certificar e acreditar e de forma aqui nós está garantizar a qualidade de teste que está guardado assim na Aruba comunidade não se tem preocupação com o teste que agora se por criar dúvida do resultado, senão depois do processo aqui nós podemos garantizar a comunidade que todo laboratório na Aruba lota certificar e acreditar seguro bonito projeto. Me quero agradecer também Departamento de Saúde Pública que a percurar para nós poder chegar num acordo e assim nós está cumprir com o nosso maneho também, cumprir com a nossa visão para percurar, para brindar um melhor serviço, um melhor cuidado na comunidade de Aruba.